In conversation with Vince Santoro. Vince is an Italian-born Canadian who grew up in Toronto, Canada, and now lives in Pickering, a suburb of Toronto. In his youth, education and sport became a priority. A private boys' school, St. Michael's College in Toronto, provided opportunity for both. Graduated from York University, Toronto, with a degree in history and a minor in behavioral science. Vince was always up for new challenges. After completing his studies, he set his eyes on Europe and played professional basketball in Italy. When he returned home, he shifted gears and worked in the aerospace industry in several capacities. The most rewarding was managing internet communication for a large aircraft manufacturer. It was during this time he decided to hone his writing skill by studying journalism in Ryerson University, Toronto, and he had several articles published. His career in communication, along with studies in Eastern journalism, prepared him to take on this challenge to write a book. His debut novel, The Final Crossing, has been a labor of love, one he worked on for many years. It reflects life experiences woven into a story that inspires and entertains, and perhaps even show the world in a different way. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today Vince Santoro. How are you doing, Vince?
I am very well, Peter. And how are you?
I'm very, very fine. And I need to mention that you have such an amazing and lovely bio.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, Vince, and I wanted to ask you, because I find the description page of your book, The Final Crossing, a tale of self-discovery and adventure, to be quite amazing, actually, and quite lovely in Amazon. I wanted to ask you, how does this book come about? What inspired you to write The Final Crossing?
Well, Peter, after graduating with a degree in history and behavioral sciences, I developed um, a curiosity, a fascination for ancient civilizations, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Incas, Mayans, and so on. So during my studies, it occurred to me that behavioral science and history were interconnected. Now, behavioral science deals with sociology, social, cultural anthropology, psychology, and so on, while history is the study of events and people that have shaped the world. So I chose ancient Egypt and its surrounding lands and some key events to tell a story about the social and cultural influences on those events. And the story is about what I believe has been man's quest since time immemorial, the search for freedom, love, and the guiding hand of a God. That's the inspiration.
Wow, that sounds quite amazing, really. I love the scent of it. And if you have a copy of the book there, you just show it to the
Yes,
camera just so we see what it looks like. Beautiful cover. And to know that you designed the cover itself is quite amazing, too.
thank you. Also designed book covers that I give away.
Oh, wow.
So,
And it's exciting to know.
thank you.
That's great. And now for readers who haven't read the book yet, and of course without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect in terms of themes, picking up the final crossing?
Certainly, the final crossing takes place in ancient Egypt in 1800 BCE. So it's quite a long time ago. And it asks some philosophical questions, such as what does it mean to be truly free? What
Mm.
is the human spirit? And what does it mean to believe in a God? Now, one reviewer who wrote to me said, and I quote, the story took me back to a time and opened my heart and my mind to a wonder of being human being. It's a valiant and fulfilling story sure to inspire and warm the heart. So the final crossing tells a story of an Egyptian servant, Nenshi, the protagonist, who struggles with class structure, both around and within him. He finally builds up the courage to ask his master for his freedom. Now, Nenshi was raised by a nobleman, so he had some liberties, unlike some of the other servants. But as fate has it, before the petition is granted, he is caught in a secret love affair with a woman above his social status. a free woman. But during one of their rendezvous, and then she commits a crime against Sia, his lover's father, and is consequently punished and sent to the Nubian gold mines to serve his sentence. He escapes and vows to return, but events happen that push him farther and farther away on a journey that redefines him, a journey that is mired with bloodshed, cruelty, and the discovery of a new deity. That is in a nutshell.
This is such an amazing body of themes you've got in here. Yeah, I love the sound of it. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
really do love the sound of it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And now, apart from the
Pleasure.
final crossing, a tale of self-discovery and adventure, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I'm working on historical fiction slash historical romance. Now, this story takes place in Italy and North Africa during World War II. So I've moved a few centuries ahead here. And I title it Letters of Redemption. Now, the story, I tell it through a shared point of view, through the protagonist, Antonio, and from the protagonist, Maria. So it's really a story about Antonio's search for reconciliation from his transgressions and Maria's hunger for independence and appreciation or apprehension over newfound love. So here's a little bit about the story. During the war, Antonio writes letters on behalf of another soldier, Roberto, to Maria. Now, Roberto had never learned how to write, just maybe his name. And Maria didn't know this because she had just met Roberto before he was sent off to war in North Africa. Now, the secret is well hidden. And sadly, even after Roberto's death in battle, the war continues, and so do the letters. Antonio's dishonesty nurtures the relationship, and Maria doesn't know about Roberto's death. So as the war comes to an end, Antonio must find Maria, plead for forgiveness, and declare his love for her. Maria, who also has fallen for the man behind the letters, must decide whether to follow her heart or let Antonio go.
Wow. I enjoy you talking about this and I enjoy listening to you talk about this. It's quite amazing to know. And I can go on and on and on and on. I'm enjoying your description of this book. It
I can
sounded,
go on and on as well, but I don't want to give away the whole story.
if we keep going on and on and on, we stay here till eternity.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I love your take on that. Sounds quite amazing to me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and that's your answer to that actually want to make me to ask you this question that I love asking authors that come on my show. You know, I've always been fascinated and taken aback and surprised about how writers, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and bring words together in a way that it eventually makes a great novel. And this always leaves me thinking, how exactly did they got the ideas to put these things together? I mean, where you have the stance of having a chapter, of having a paragraph coming together to make a chapter, and have chapters coming together to make several pages, an amazing novel eventually. Leave me thinking, how did they get the ideas to pull these words together in a way that it eventually makes a great novel? And as far as writing is concerned, Vince, I love to ask you, how do you get your inspirations and ideas? Where did they come from?
Good question. Well, books have always been a source of inspiration for me. A friend and fellow author once said to me, writers are readers first. And that is so true. So reading and reading widely certainly provides for a lot of inspiration. Also education, learning about different things, wanting to write about them, and so on. And then there are authors who have had lasting influence on me. For example, Ernest Hemingway and his simple and natural language, where he takes every sentence and paragraph and just strips it down to the bare bones. And then there's a Canadian best-selling author, Margaret Atwood. She said, as a writer, your goal is to keep your reader believing in your story, even though you both know it's fiction. I love that. So to answer the question briefly, like where do I get my inspiration from? The short answer is life. Life is where I get all the inspiration from. And all of the ideas are all around us. Relationships between people, successes of people that have, those who have worked so hard to achieve their goals, and even the lives of the less fortunate and their challenges in life. So ideas for me come from anywhere and everywhere in life.
Wow, that's amazing to know. Thank you so much for sharing. I enjoy listening to that too. And I've had so many people say, yeah, I got ideas from dreams. I got ideas from things I've been through personally. I've got ideas from things I've seen around me. And it's very lovely to get to know how different writers get how they get the ideas and inspirations from. So thank you for sharing. I enjoy listening to you too. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Yes, it is different for every writer. I agree.
Absolutely. It is very different. Yeah, yeah. And I'd also like to ask you, Vince, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks and criticism of our works. I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative criticism of your writing in case you've ever had one in time past?
Hmm, another good question. Criticisms. Well, I tend to look at criticisms as form of feedback or opinions or reviews.
Mm,
I've had many. Most of them have been very good. The odd one, not so good. And I know that my book isn't for everyone. That's
yeah,
okay. And I get it. So when I get a negative criticism or evaluation, after the initial sting, I look at it as an opportunity for improvement. I ask myself, okay, what didn't work for this reader? What can I learn to improve my writing? So if the criticism is honest, as a writer, there's always something to learn from the criticism.
absolutely.
Having said that, I'm pleased to say that I've had, like I said, a lot of positive feedback and criticisms for my debut novel here. 5-star reviews on Amazon, a 5-star review from Reader's Favorite, and I recently won an International Impact Book Award for my book in the historical fiction genre.
Oh, that's quite commendable. That's amazing. That's a lot of work you've got going.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, I love the sound of it. Thank you. And now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered in the process of writing this book and also ever since it got published?
Yes, yes, there have always been challenges, I'm sure, for many authors, not just me.
Yeah.
From the writing perspective, the approach to writing is not the same for everyone. And I had to work on what worked best for me, my style, my voice, point of view, and so on. And then there's dealing with the story itself, creating characters, creating a story that is compelling, memorable, and entertaining. And it doesn't stop there for me. When the writing of the first draft is done, it doesn't stop. As someone said, writing is 10% writing and 90% rewriting.
Yeah.
And that's not far from the truth. So after
Yeah,
that draft, there's a lot of revisiting, rewriting, and so on. Now that's on the writing side. On the publishing side, that's a whole different world.
absolutely.
Publishing industry has changed over time, and
Tremendously.
authors have had to adjust and do some of the things that traditional publishers used to do in the past.
Mm.
So you're looking at marketing, promotion, finding new sales opportunities, and so on. Those are very, very challenging. Now, I'm fortunate that I have someone who has taken on some of those challenges, and that's my wife, Elizabeth. Without her
Really?
wavering support and help, I would probably be struggling even more. So
Wow.
she has helped immensely with promoting, advertising and so on. So if any authors out
Oh,
there have someone who can step in and help, by all means, go for it.
wow. That's quite amazing to know. I mean, that's very lovely to know. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, yeah. And from there, I think you've given a short snippet of advice in there. But then, is there anything that you'd love to share with the viewers about your book that we did not mention in this interview, and I'd love the viewers to know? Also, just in case you have any book you're working on, I'm not quite sure if you have any upcoming works you're working on.
I had mentioned the book that I'm working on, which I'm about three-quarters way through, The Letters of Redemption. But as for a question that I've been asked before is that which character was your favorite to write? I've been asked
Oh,
that before. Now, most are going to think, oh, it's the protagonist, in this case, Nenshi. That must be your favorite. Yes, he's up there. I can relate to the protagonist, but he wasn't necessarily my favorite to write about. In my story, in the book, The Final Crossing,
yeah.
one of my favorite characters to write about was Aziza, a 15-year-old mute. She's strong-willed, curious, and resourceful. She's also distrustful of anyone. She had been homeless for most of her life and learned how to take care of herself. So now she befriended Nenchi in Damascus while he was on the run as a refugee. And a strong bond grows between them, and they depend on each other for safety and survival.
Oh,
They also had to learn to communicate with each other without words through their own form of sign language. So this character was interesting for me to write about.
wow. Wow. That's great. That's quite great. And that's quite lovely to know too. I mean, if you do you have a favorite character? Do you have one that you love wholeheartedly? Do you have one that you hate wholeheartedly? Knowing that they created all of these characters by themselves, oh yeah, yeah, this one I hate, there's one I love. It's such a tricky one to ask, but then it's also fun to get all those ideas on this, especially if you've read a novel.
Yes, agreed. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, would you like to read a short section of your book to the audience? It could be your favorite line, page, or even a
Um,
paragraph if you would like to.
sure, absolutely. That'd be nice. Thank you. I'll give you a little background to put it into
Yeah,
context.
yeah.
Now, as I mentioned before, there was a petition uh, written to set Nenchi free. It was completed, but it wasn't submitted. Now, Nenchi's friend is a good friend of his, friend he grew up with since childhood. Now, his name is Hordakef. Hordakef is a free man, but Nenchi is not, as I said. So Hordakef, the friend, volunteers to deliver um, the petition himself to the scribes, but he doesn't. Instead, he holds on to it just for a little longer. But what happens is Hordakef is struck by a falling block while a house was being built, so he's injured. In this scene, Nancy visits Hordakef at his home while he's recovering from the injury. He's in his bed. Hordakef is heavily sedated and hardly aware his friend is in the room. So, if I can read,
Well,
Nenchi sat by the bed and stared at his friend, immobile and peaceful. A sign the sedative took control. Hordakef's leg and lower abdomen were wrapped to prevent movement. His sallow face invited death, and his breathing became slow and rhythmic. Nenchi wiped the tears from his cheek, fearing Hordakef would open his eyes to see his friend broken. He held Hordakef's hand. The touch, warm and comforting, caused it to twitch. Hordakef's eyes opened, as slow as the morning sun peered from the horizon. His pupils were dilated, his senses fogged. A short smile acknowledged Nenchi's presence. Hordakef's lips quivered, wanting to speak, wanting to tell his friend not to worry. They exchanged a glance. For that moment, the sedative had paused from its purpose, long enough to allow friends to greet each other. Then Hordakef closed his eyes. Serenity accompanied his long and deep breaths. Nancy took a damp cloth and dabbed the perspiration from Hordakef's forehead. A tear fell and landed on Hordakef's hand. Nancy gently wiped it with his finger, then rose and left the room. If Nenchi had turned around just before he exited, he would have seen Hordakef open his eyes. He would have noticed his friend struggle to speak and raise his hand. He would have noticed Hordakef point to the corner of the room, to a wooden chest that rested on a small folding stool. In it were the documents, the petition intended to set Nenchi free.
wow, wow. That's an amazing one. And I love your transition. I love your use of words. And I love your, storytelling techniques in this short description or recitation you've just made. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah,
Thank you
that's
very much.
amazing.
Thank you.
That's really lovely. And thank you so much for giving us a snippet into the story. Yeah, I love the sound of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of your book. On what platform is it available on for purchase?
The book is available from all the key distributors, Amazon, US, Canada, UK, Australia, which I've had sales from all of those regions. Also Indigo, Canada, Indigo chapters, Barnes and Nobles. Now the full list of where it's available is on my website. I do have a website, and the book is also available hard copy, paperback, and e-reader for both Kindle and Kobo.
That's great. That's great. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of the Santoro books directly on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, and also on other platform. I also left link in the description part of the video for his social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Vince, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
Thank you, thank you very much, Peter. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, you can.
I want to applaud you and give you a lot of credit for what you do.
Thank
Giving
you.
authors the opportunity to showcase themselves, their work, and what you do is absolutely marvelous. I really want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Whenever I get that, it makes me blush.
Very good.
Thank you so much. This is quite fun. I enjoy hearing you talk about your book, and I love the chair in your background. Just one more chapter. Sounds like a good chair for a writer to keep you
That's
reminded. Yeah, you need
a
one more
reminder.
chapter to continue this
One
book.
more chapter. Exactly. Great. Thank you, Peter,
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. This is quite fun. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.